Hey there, prisoners of alien robots. I'm the Comics Kid 2099, and I'm here to talk about an episode of Superman the Animated Series. Today, I will be talking about the episode Ghost in the Machine. If you haven't seen the episode, watch it before you allow me to spoil the plot in this review, starting now. One of Lex Luthor's weapons testing events for the military is sabotaged by none other than Brainiac, who downloaded himself into Lex's computer since we last saw him back in the front half of Season 1. Brainiac holds Lex hostage, demanding that Lex build a new robot body for Brainiac. Superman eventually comes to Lex's rescue, as Brainiac's attempts to come back to life are proving to be dangerous to the people of Metropolis. Cue credits. So this is a really great episode on a number of levels. For one, this is now twice this series has gone against our expectations on a Luthor-Brainiac team-up. I think I'm familiar with maybe 3 Luthor-Brainiac team-ups total, and that includes one from the DC Animated Universe, but even so, it's still something that you expect to see when these two are in the same story. So for them to once again not only not team up, but be at odds with each other, that's pretty neat, I think. And while Superman isn't in this episode very much, I still feel like it uses him in great ways and just the right amount. That was a big problem I had in the episode Monkey Fun, which almost felt like it could have been an episode of any 90s cartoon series if you took Superman out of the 5 minutes that he was in it. But this episode utilizes Superman perfectly, even if sparsely. It makes perfect sense that Clark and Lois would be covering the Luthor weapons thing, as they are seemingly the only reporters working for the Daily Planet. And naturally, Superman would stop the missiles when Luthor's weapons thing was sabotaged. And then we get to see Clark Kent himself enter the story, again because he's a reporter, so it makes sense for him to intersect with the story here, even though Brainiac's scheme has nothing to do with Superman in this episode. And even though Superman is not the protagonist of this episode, he is here to point the audience in the direction of Mercy and Lex, who are kind of sort of our dual protagonists here. Mercy gets more character development here than she does in any other DC Animated Universe story, and that includes the Justice League episode where she became the CEO of LexCorp. The explanation of why Mercy is so loyal to Lex is simple but effective. I might have chosen a different origin story for her other than she was an orphan of the streets, but in a 20-minute episode that is doing so much, you can't ask for a more detailed or complex origin story. And while it is interesting from a character perspective that Mercy remains loyal to Lex even when he leaves her for dead, I do find it slightly unbelievable that Mercy would continue to be loyal even after that. But it is what it is. If she was more developed, maybe I could buy this decision a little bit more. And while Lex isn't in the episode very much, I really love every moment of him in this episode. He's still a heel, but he's got qualities I really admire that I want to see in every version of Luthor. He helps people, even if it is only to suit his own needs, but it helps paint him as the golden boy of Metropolis that so few people see through other than people like Lois Clark and Perry White. And this Luthor is defiant in a way that I wish I could be. He won't be pushed around, especially when he knows no matter what he does, he will die. And this episode also kind of hints at an element that later showed up in the Superman 2000 pitch by Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Mark Millar, and Tom Peyer. They pitched a Luthor who is publicly a businessman, but only spends about 10 minutes a day running the business, and the rest of his time is spent on mad sciencey things. While this isn't blatantly stated in this episode, it does seem like Brainiac chose Luthor because of his science acumen. Up until now, it has seemed like this series has borrowed quite a bit from the John Byrne Luthor from the mid to late 80s, who was exclusively a businessman and had underlings do his science stuff for him. But I love that this Luthor is the only human Brainiac would trust to rebuild him. While businessman Luthor does have his place, I do like that this opens the door for other ways for Luthor to be a threat to Superman. And possibly most importantly, this episode has some actual laugh out loud moments in it. Lois asking Clark who would want to sabotage Luthor got a huge chuckle out of me, and somehow Lois saying that there's a reason Clark is single when he questioned Mercy's loyalty to Lex got an even bigger laugh. Moments like this really made me wish that these two had more development and more scenes like this throughout the entire series. Overall, I really love this episode. Very solid, and I don't think there's a single thing in this episode that I had to complain about. But what did you guys think of the episode and of my review? Let me know in the comments below. And in the meantime, be sure to check this channel out for other videos that I will be doing in the future. Until then, catch you later.